outside of the Steelers' pressing need for a quarterback, they need wide receiver just as much. And I got a few wide receiver targets that the Steelers should aggressively pursue during free agency. Elijah Moore is the first wide receiver the Steelers should look to target. He's going to be somebody that can be a good fourth or third option in this offense. Yeah, he's not going to be a good number one and number two option, but he will be a dependable third option where he could be a good deep threat. He's really reliable in third down situations as well. He's been underutilized up to this point of his career. He hasn't had good quarterback play. He played with Zach Wilson with the Jets. He has played with Deshaun Watson and a carousel of other different quarterbacks in Cleveland. If the Steelers get a decent quarterback in here, you get a guy like Elijah Moore and you make him your wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, he could be a really good bargain pickup for Pittsburgh. Amari Cooper, unlike Elijah Moore, is what the Steelers really need. You need somebody that can be a semi-wide receiver 1 or true number 2 on the opposite side of George Pickens. Yeah, Amari Cooper is up there in age. He's in his early 30s. He still is a really productive receiver. Prior to last year, he came off a 1,000-yard year with the Browns. He was seeking a contract extension before last season started, but the Browns ultimately said they weren't going to give him one, and they ended up trading him around the deadline to the Bills, and he didn't do much for Buffalo, but I think that was more due to him not knowing the offense that much and them kind of struggling to get him involved. He did have a good game against the Rams, but just remember, in 2023, last year, he caught 72 passes, over 1,200 receiving yards. You bring him into the Steel City with Elijah Moore, George Pickens, and Pat Freiermuth, the Steelers' passing attack will be drastically upgraded. And plus, you wouldn't have to give up too much to get any of these two players. You probably could get Amari Cooper for a 2-year deal around $18 million. I think that's pretty reasonable. And Elijah Moore, you can probably get him for a 1-year deal around $5-6 million. Now, if the Steelers want to go a more expensive direction, Chris Godwin. If you get Chris Godwin, though, you won't be able to have enough money to get Amari Cooper or Elijah Moore. At that point, you would just have to draft another wide receiver. You will have to use that money elsewhere to address other positions like getting another corner, improving the offensive line, adding more depth on the defensive line. Chris Godwin is not going to be cheap. He probably is going to be asking for anywhere around $25 to $28 million a year. He probably will want a 3-4 year deal. This is probably the last time in his career he ever is going to get a max contract. So if the Steelers go after Chris Godwin, he will be a great piece to this offense because without a doubt, you're getting somebody that right now is better than both Elijah Moore and Amari Cooper. He probably is just as good as George Pickens in some capacity, but you will have 2 wide receiver 1s on your offense. And George Pickens, now he will have a little bit of that burden taken off him. If you watched a lot of Steeler games, it was pretty apparent that teams were doing everything they could to sell out on stopping George Pickens. If you stop George Pickens, then the Steelers' offense was really inefficient. Adding Chris Godwin now will make things so much easier for whoever's going to be playing quarterback next year and for Arthur Smith if he continues to call plays as the OC for the Steelers. Chris Godwin is a really good receiver. He's coming off an injury-riddled year, but I still feel he still has a few more good years left in him. He would be a good pickup for Pittsburgh, and the price tag, it would be a little bit hefty, but it definitely would be worth it. I wouldn't have any problem giving him $25, $28 million a year. He definitely gives you that kind of production when he's on the field. And Chris Olave. Chris Olave isn't available in free agency, but he has been rumored to be on the trade block. The Saints, they could be rebuilding. I think Chris Olave is the best receiver target the Steelers could possibly get this offseason. You won't have to give up a high draft pick to get him. You probably could get him for a second-round pick and a few other midday selections. Yeah, he is coming up on the end of his rookie deal, but I'd rather pay a guy like Chris Olave 26, 28 million a year, that's younger than Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, and the same age as Elijah Moore, then have to overspend for a guy like a Cooper Kupp or Stephon Diggs that's old, aging, and regressing. The Steelers need to go for the young upside. Chris Olave, he definitely gives you that. And in his short span in the league, he's been one of the more underrated receivers. He's a really good deep threat, has really good hands. I think he's pretty good after the catch as well. Before last year, he had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. I would love for the Steelers to get Chris Olave. This is definitely the wide receiver target that they need to prioritize the most out of them all, because he definitely is somebody that they could get for a really good bargain and not have to give up too many assets to acquire.